So in this video I'm going to cover some of the basic programs and commands that you can use within the Linux terminal in order to navigate your files. More specifically, I'm going to be talking about the Linux shell. In this case it will be bash because that's the shell that comes with Ubuntu. But for now all you need to know is that is accessed through the terminal program that comes with Ubuntu. So to open up the terminal, we can right click on the desktop and say open terminal, or in the applications menu there's the terminal icon here. We can click on this and it gives us our terminal. The Linux shell is a very important and very useful tool to know how to use, and while it's very easy to use the graphical programs that come with Ubuntu, it's more beneficial to learn how to use the terminal, as this is something that's going to be universal to all Linux distributions. And this is how most programs are run. Most of your graphical programs are really just running a lot of these commands in the background, programs such as your network manager. These are just middlemen between you and the terminal. They just execute commands that you tell them to through mouse clicks rather than through terminal commands. So first off, you'll notice here that it tells us who's logged into the machine, so that's Billy, the user. And then we've got the @ symbol, and then it tells us what the machine's name is. This is just useful to know who you're logged in as, what machine you're working on, because the shell can be accessed remotely. This is useful if you're maintaining a server or if you need to access your computer from elsewhere. So that's just a very useful prompt that tells us who's logged in to where. Next off, you'll see there's a tilde here, and you might wonder what that is. So the shell that we're using, which is bash, is set up so that the prompt shows us where in our file system we are. Now, you might wonder, tilde, what does that tell us? So the correct way to find out where you are in your file system is with the program pwd, which stands for present working directory. So let's type that now. And it tells us that we're at /home/Billy. The slash here is the root directory. That's like your C drive in Windows. That's the very top of the tree. Next, we're in /home, so that tells us it's a home directory. Then /Billy, so it's the user Billy's home directory. And this is similar to your libraries page in Windows, or your users directory in Windows. This is where you're probably going to store a lot of your documents, a lot of your files. These are your personal files. So now that we know where we are, we might want to know what is contained within the directory that we're in. And the way we do that is the command ls, short for list. So here you can see desktop, documents, downloads, etc. These are other directories. So you can see that they're colored in blue. Most modern terminals will display colors, and it's often the case that different types of files or directories will have different colors. This can also depend on who owns the file and what permissions you have with regards to that file. So now that we know what directories we have within this directory, we might want to move to one of those. So how would we do that? And that's simple enough. There's a command cd, short for change directory. You'll notice a theme here. The names of the commands make sense. And they're shortened so that they're quick to type, so that you can move around very quickly. So let's go into documents. Now, notice that I capitalized the D within documents. So Linux, unlike Windows, is case sensitive. So we need to make sure we type that capital D. If we didn't type the capital D, that doesn't exist. So let's change that back. And now you'll see that our prompt has changed. So this now tells us that we're in the home directory for my user, and we're in the documents folder. Let's see what's in there. Nothing. That's because I've only just installed the operating system and don't have any files in there. Now what if we want to make our own directory? mkdir, make directory. That's the program that we want to use. Now, if we just type this, what's it going to do? It doesn't have a directory name, so what we need to do is give it a name. So we've typed the program that we want to run, and we're giving it an argument. So that argument, I don't know what to call it, let's just call it new, for a new folder. Now if we list, we have a new folder there, and we can use cd to enter that folder and see that it's empty. The way that we go back a step using cd, we say cd ... or period, and that takes us back a step. Now let's go back another step. Say we want to get to that new folder now. If we type cd new, what's going to happen? Doesn't exist. Why is that? It's because the new directory is not within our working directory, our present working directory. So it doesn't know where to find that. So you always work down the way. You go into a directory from the one you're working in. Or, alternatively, you can give it a path. So you know that it's in documents. So we say cd documents / new, because we know we're going into documents and then into new. So let's type that. And that takes us straight there. We can do the same going backwards now. So we want to go back to, let's say just back to the home directory. Now one way we could do that is by typing the tilde that I mentioned before. That'll take us back. Another way we could do that is to give it the absolute path. And what the absolute path is what we found here. So starting from the root all the way to where we want to be. So we can go cd /home/Billy. And that'll take us right back. Another handy way to save time is to get back to the user's home directory. You can also just type cd and press enter. And that will always take you back home. So what if we want to remove a directory? Let's go back into our not downloads. That's another thing I forgot to mention. So if you want to type out a directory or a file name in bash or in the Linux terminal, you don't have to type that out fully. You can autocomplete by pressing the tab button. So if we type doc, none of these directories start with doc other than documents. So if we press tab, it knows what we're trying to do. This can save you a lot of time. So we see here that we have our new directory, and say we want to get rid of that for some reason. The way to do that is rm for remove, dir, remove directory. And then, again, we give it an argument because we want to tell it which to remove. And so we say rmdir new. And now if we list, there's nothing there. What about files? Let's see, do we have a file here? No, I think this is completely empty. So we're going to go into documents and we're going to make a file. How do we make a file? Now, this depends on what your file is going to be, but quite often you're going to be working with text files. This might not always be the case. It might be you have a specific program that uses a specific kind of file. But for now, we're going to talk about a very basic program called Nano. Now, Nano comes with most Linux distributions. It's a very basic program, it's tiny, and it's useful. And it's a text editor. It's a terminal-based text editor, so it doesn't require any graphical environment. All it requires is the Linux terminal. So let's type Nano. And that's how you run a program that's installed on your machine. You just type the name of the program. Usually this is all lowercase, not always the case, but is useful to remember when you're trying to remember the names of your programs. So let's press enter here. And this has taken us into the Nano environment. So here we can just type whatever we want. It's nice and simple. You use the arrow keys to move around. You can't use a cursor to move your cursor within the terminal because, as I say, it's not a graphical environment. It doesn't support that. So let's save this file. The way we can do that is press Control Exit. Down here are all your commands for Nano. It's quite handy to have that there in case you forget. This caret here just means you press Control. So we say Control X to exit. Do you want to save? Press Y for yes. File name to write, we'll call it new. Now, I'm not going to give it an extension. If you're used to using Windows, you'll know that most files tend to have an extension. Linux doesn't really care. You can run files through programs regardless of the extension. So I'm not going to give it an extension. We're just going to call it new and press enter. So now if we list this directory, we have a file called new, and you'll notice it's a different color from the directory up here. That just makes it easier to differentiate between what kind of file is what. So now that we've got a file here, we might want to remove it. How would we do that? So before we did rmdir for remove directory. So for files, we just want rm. So we're going to go rm and then give it an argument new. And that will remove the new file. So this should be enough to allow you to sort of navigate your file system to a reasonable level of confidence. It doesn't allow you to do an awful lot, but it allows you to sort of get a feel for how the terminal looks, because most people will be used to some sort of graphic environment which looks similar to this. And really, it's just the same thing. This is just a different way of visualizing it. One last thing I'm going to touch on, which should be useful to people, is how to install a program in Ubuntu. So I'm going to do a separate video on package management, because that's very different to how we would do it in Windows. But for now, if you need a program straight away, I'm going to show you how to do that. So the program that we use to install other programs in Ubuntu is apt, or apt for short. So let's just run that for now and see what it does. So here, apt by itself doesn't actually do anything other than give us a help file. So here it says usage apt options command. So we type the name of the program, apt, give it an option, and then a command. So most used commands are listed here. So say we want to search for a program. Now I'm going to use Vim as an example. Vim is a text editor for within the terminal, similar to Nano, but with a lot more functionality. This is just an example to show you how to use this. So let's search for Vim. So we do program, command, and then argument. And it searches. We've got a lot of options here. And these are just different, a lot of these are different clients that use Vim or that build upon Vim. But this shows us that there are packages with that name in the repository. So we want to install Vim. How would we do that? So let's open up apt again to see what commands we have. Here we go, apt install. So let's try that. So here, if you try to run apt install as a regular user, so as Billy, you can't get in to some of these directories that are within the root. So how do we do that? We need to run as the root user. We touched on this in a previous video. So the way we do that is type sudo apt install vim. We're asked for a password. We type the password, and it will begin to install your program. Okay, so we return to the prompt when it's done, and now we can test if that worked. And there you go, Vim runs now. So that's how you would install a program using apt in Ubuntu. Hopefully this video has given you a good idea of what you can do with the Linux shell on a very basic level, Hopefully this video has given you a rough idea of what you can do with the Linux shell just to navigate around your files and directories. If you have any questions about this, please just ask in the comments, or if you have any suggestions for a future video that you might find helpful or that others might find helpful, please do say. If this video was helpful, please leave a like and subscribe for more videos in the future.